Hi everyone. Today I will be talking a little bit about MakerDAO. Unfortunately, I had a little trouble getting here in time, and the presentation is not what I wanted it to be. But bear with me, and I think we'll have an interesting overview of MakerDAO and the challenges that it's facing today. The title of my presentation is Breaking the Dunbar Barrier. For those of you who are not familiar with the term, the Dunbar number is the number at which a social group can no longer know every other single individual in the group. And as I will be showing, MakerDAO has been growing a lot lately, and we are approaching this Dunbar barrier. When individuals no longer can know each other in a group, that brings with it certain challenges. And today I want to present some ideas about what we can do to take on those challenges. I'll firstly introduce myself and one of the core units that I'm working for, MakerDAO SES. We'll have a very brief history and the anatomy of MakerDAO, and then I'll be talking about these challenges that we're facing and some ideas of how we can deal with them. So myself, I have a background in software engineering. I joined the Maker project in 2017. Back then, that was as head of engineering of the Maker Foundation. Maker Foundation was a centralized entity which was responsible for bootstrapping the Maker protocol. But once the Maker Foundation fulfilled its purpose, MakerDAO went back to full decentralization. And that's when we formed the core units that I will be talking about. And today I'm working as one of the co-founders of one of those core units, MakerDAO SES. This is since last year. MakerDAO SES is not the only core unit. We have about 20 core units at MakerDAO. SES stands for Sustainable Ecosystem Scaling. And what we do is we try to remove barriers between decentralized workforce, capital, and work. To go a little bit deeper into that, because it's not obvious what that means, removing barriers between decentralized workforce, capital, and work. I just want to briefly talk about this diagram, which lays out our strategy. So what we do in practice is we look at MakerDAO and the structure that it has today, and we try to identify challenges, scaling bottlenecks, coordination problems, things that are challenging as the DAO scales up. We then do the research that is necessary to do the analysis, provide some potential solutions for these challenges, and lastly, we also work with others to put those solutions in practice. So for this, we run an incubation program. We'll be talking about core units quite a bit today. So this is what we do. We help new teams getting onboarded into MakerDAO. As it says, it's a launch pad for new core units and an onboarding pipeline for new groups. We combine this with sponsorship and advisory to help MakerDAO scale up, because the challenges that we are facing, they're quite unique, and this is quite new for everyone. So very brief history of Maker and DAO for those of you who are not familiar. The official start, I guess, of MakerDAO was in 2014, even before the name Maker existed. Some of you may know Rune Christensen. Rune Christensen was together with Nikolai Meshekian was the co-founder of the MakerDAO project. And this all began in 2014 when Rune posted a Reddit post about e-money. And this was already the idea of creating a stablecoin. But the details were still pretty hazy, and really the path to where we are today went through different phases. It took 3 years to assemble a small or relatively small team and get to the point where the first version of the protocol, which was like a beta version of Maker, that one was launched at the end of 2017, called Single Collateral DAI. With single collateral DAI, the idea is quite simple. You can lock in Ethereum as collateral in the MakerDAO protocol, and you can then take out a loan that is denominated in DAI. And DAI, the DAI stablecoin, is roughly, or is soft pegged to the US dollar. Now, single collateral DAI was not the full vision of the MakerDAO protocol. In 2019, 2 years later, the actual production version that is in production today went live, called Multicollateral DAI. And Multicollateral DAI allows not just to lock up Ethereum, but to lock up multiple types of collateral, such as WBTC and other tokens, but also in the future and today already in some prototypes, real-world assets. This was when, this is where I helped the team at Maker to build and deploy the production version of the protocol today. And as I mentioned, this was done at the Maker Foundation. The Maker Foundation was a centralized entity, and it had three purposes. That was the launch of Multicollateral DAI. It was pushing DAI to critical mass, meaning that the protocol should make enough profits to sustain itself in a decentralized manner. And then third, the tools should be created for governance, to put the tools in the hands of the community so that they can govern the protocol themselves. And then in 2021, when those goals were reached, the Maker Foundation dissolved, and we were basically full circle back to fully decentralized operations last year. So MakerDAO was at the very beginning of DeFi. One could say it's the original DeFi project. And the first big contribution that the project made is a decentralized stablecoin. Today I want to talk more about the second big contribution that I believe we can make, which is the decentralized work paradigm in a DAO. So anatomy of MakerDAO, what are MIPS, core units, and delegates? I think many of you, of course, most of you will be familiar with these concepts, but want to briefly outline them as how they are implemented in Maker. So Maker governance has the concept of Maker improvement proposals. These are proposals that can be put forward and that Maker voters can vote on and that they can ratify. Today there are more than, I believe, 70 Maker improvement proposals that are posted and many of them ratified by the DAO. And the Maker improvement proposal framework at Maker is one of the most advanced in the space. So if you are interested in DAO governance and almost the creation of a new legal body, as it were, then make sure to have a look at Maker improvement proposals. So you can go to mips.makerdao.com, which is our portal for that. There are three Maker improvement proposals that are especially important, and they are templates. These are the MIP39, MIP40, and MIP41, quite infamous in the Maker community, and they define the core unit framework. So MIP39 allows groups to propose a project, a team, and coupled with a MIP40 and MIP41, it allows them to request a budget to put the proposal in practice, so to work with a team of permanent contributors for Maker. And MIP41 is the ratification of the facilitator. The facilitator is the person or persons, because this could be more than one, who are responsible for proposing the core unit and managing its budget. And they are basically the bridge between the Maker core units, the DAO teams, and Maker governance. So we have seen a lot of growth with these core units. This is a list, and it's not even fully up to date, but at the end of last year, there were 29 Maker improvement proposals that were made, specifically MIP39s, that proposed new core units. And you will see on the list, of course, the usual suspects. A crypto protocol needs, for example, a protocol engineering team responsible for smart contract development. You may know that MakerDAO has its own Oracle solution, so there is an Oracle's team. There is a risk team for the finance side of things, but there are many, many more that contribute to the operations and the further extension of the Maker protocol. So as I mentioned, there was quite a bit of growth throughout last year, and we ended the year with about 20 core units. And in total, because there are on average 5 members of each core unit, 5 permanent members, these are 100 permanent DAO members that are working for MakerDAO. These permanent team members, they are paid by the protocol. Most of them have a bonus in the MKR governance token, and the idea is that their incentives are strongly aligned with the good of the protocol to make it sure that the protocol succeeds. We even made the news on this. The second construct is Maker Delegates, and these delegates were voted in later down the road when MKR voters no longer had the bandwidth to follow up with everything that's happening in Maker governance. So as we are growing, I wanted to pitch a few ideas as we are approaching the Dunbar barrier, how we can further grow MakerDAO and make the MakerDAO governance even more advanced. So challenges are that MKR holders and delegates have limited bandwidth, and today there is a big challenge, which is to create a vision, high-level goals, and to align all these different groups in the DAO. And this is what we are working on today. So one of the constructs that we are already creating on top of the MIP39, MIP40, and MIP41s, which are the basic core unit frameworks, are strategic initiatives. And these are basically their formal initiatives, they're roadmaps that are shared between multiple core units. And we have a management framework that allows these core units to coordinate through this process and develop these shared roadmaps. These roadmaps are then presented to the Maker delegates, who can then vote not just on the individual core units, but also on the outcome of these roadmaps. And what we hope is that we will now move to the next phase, where delegates will be responsible for strategy and vision as well. What we think is that this might actually evolve into something much more familiar, something that looks like a political system, but not the usual one, but one that is completely run on the blockchain. MKR voters, they are already staking their MKR for delegates, and we believe that these delegates, with the limited bandwidth that they have, they should team up, and they should basically form governance parties. And then these delegates, with their governance parties, they would be able to fund the core units, the domain teams that are doing the actual work. We call this the liquid plutocratic election model. This would also be an opportunity to take care of another challenge, which is that there is currently no budget cap for Maker, and it's difficult to plan if you don't know how much growth MKR holders want us to target. And this is another thing that could be implemented as part of almost an election cycle, if you like. So that was it, my overview of MakerDAO. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that I sparked some ideas about how we can scale DAOs even further. Thank you.